Hello and welcome to episode 12 out of this 14 episode season. We are approaching the end, everybody. But welcome to episode 12. This week covers the races around both Tier 1 and Tier 2's races around the Circuit of the Americas, otherwise known as COTA or the Austin GP. Some Tier 1 was quite an eventful race. Safety cars, this, that, the other. Same with Tier 2, except Tier 2, the weather element came in. It was an absolute brilliant race in terms of weather and strategy and what have you. Some very important championship news in both Tier 1 and Tier 2, but I'll let Josh and Silent cover that in their respective parts. This week, our Tier 1 drivers tackled the Circuit of the Americas, a track that some people seem to either really love or really hate. It's sort of like the Marmite of tracks, you could say. It's one of those that if you can keep it together and nail that first and third sector, you're pretty golden and you tend to do quite well here. But that doesn't matter. Silent is here to take you over the Tier 1 race at COTA.
Thank you very much, Moser. Going into the COTA race, Stocky, the championship leader, knew the situation around him. As going into the race, he had a 9-point lead up to a top spot in the standings, and with Weeksy not able to attend the race, if he was able to either come out on top or just come close in second, he would take the championship home to Ferrari. And, well, in the early stage of the Grand Prix, it didn't really look that way, as there was a safety car, and Stocky pitted twice under that safety car for wrong wing damage and one also of the wrong strategy. So Stocky had a mare earlier on the Grand Prix, but later on he was able to fix it up with another safety car coming in around midway in the Grand Prix. He was able to get a really good restart and shoot himself right up the order. With multiple spins and crashes, Stocky was fortunate to move up bit by bit by bit. And towards the very end of the Grand Prix, he was able to put himself second in the Grand Prix and was technically first because there was a penalty to Trio, who was first on track of around 3 seconds, and Stocky was a second behind. And then he came round the last turn in COTA to win not only the Grand Prix but also to win the championship. It was a great drive from Stocky to rebuild himself after earlier mistakes, and also just put Ferrari perfectly in place to finish off the constructors in Abu Dhabi. So congratulations to Stocky for winning the championship, and really just a dominant drive from the Ferrari man.
Yeah, I mean, it was a brilliant end to the season. Unfortunately, Weeksy wasn't able to put up a fight this week because he is away. He's on holiday in France. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to race, so he wasn't able to fight for that title really close. But it's absolutely amazing to see that both of them have shared a lovely and respectful championship fight. It really narrowed up after the season break. But yeah, just perfect. And congratulations to Stocky on becoming FRR's second ever Tier 1 champion, but also now double world champion 2 years in a row. So this week, once again, no driver interview. Unfortunately, we couldn't get anybody that was available in time. So instead, I thought it'd be a nice idea in the penultimate race episode. So we've only got one race left. So I thought it'd be good to get Josh and Silent's opinions and sort of views on how the season has gone from their point of view. So obviously Tier 1 Drivers' Championship is wrapped up. Constructors is looking like it's going to sway in the way of Ferrari in Abu Dhabi. Tier 2 Naito is very, very close. I think he's got about a 1-point gap, depending on whether or not he wins Driver of the Day. He might be champion going into Abu Dhabi if not, and Alfa Romeo looks set to take that championship in Abu Dhabi as well. So, Josh, we'll start with you. Just give us a quick fire minute or two how you view and how you think the season has gone for FRR.
Well, FRR in general, I think it's been a pretty good season. I think we've seen some great racing, and I think we've seen some real talent in the league. And I also think not just on the racing side, but also on the outside, with the introduction of the recap, and I think the league just getting better this year outside of racing as well. I think for FRR as a whole, it's been a real good one. And I think, from here on in, it can only get better. Only good can come of this season. The racing's been great, and outside it's been good as well.
Silent, what about you? What's your view and your thoughts on the entire season as a whole, or bar Abu Dhabi? We get your opinions on Abu Dhabi after Abu Dhabi, but what's your opinion on the season?
Well, as a commentator, it's fantastic this season because there's been so much to go over. There's been so much to track. There's been so much to follow. Title fights. There's been really good battling around every track, around every turn, and there's just been so much drama this season, which will unfortunately come to an end next week. But I'm sure season 3 will be just as, if not better than this season. And this season is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely been a lovely season. You're saying about from a commentary perspective, there's been some amazing wheel-to-wheel overtakes. A couple that stick out in my head that I've just sort of got ingrained are Merritt's overtake. I think it was a quadruple overtake in Brazil. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
Everybody just seemed to sort of go a bit wide, and it's almost like the sea parted itself for him to just go down the inside. That was a lovely overtake. Good judgment of space. Some of the Monza overtakes in Tier 1, they were brilliant, and some of your commentary, beautiful, as ever. Funny enough, Josh was absent that week. And
here we go.
Japan, do you remember the drift through turn 1, the two cars drifting?
Yeah.
That was definitely a sight to see, and that was entertaining. But yeah, it's a nice short, brief wrap up of the first 11 of 12 rounds of FRR Season 2. Thank you both. Our Tier 2 drivers also tackled the circuit of the Americas this week. We had a very interesting race in terms of a few different things, which I'm not going to say because I'll let Josh take you through the race and all of its proceedings now.
Thank you very much. Well, qualifying, fairly simple one, really. Nothing much to report apart from Josh in the Haas, I believe it was, retiring quite early on. But Tom Locke took a very, very crucial pole in terms of the championship, but I'll get into in just a second. So with Night Out taking P2 for him, which wasn't great, but later, yet again, I'll explain what needed to happen. And RNG Merritt, last year's Tier 2 champion, took third place in the Mercedes. I've been talking about the championship a little bit in that few moments. Basically, Tom Locke had to finish P3 or above to take the championship fight onto Abu Dhabi. If he finished P4 and Night Out won, the championship would be settled there and then. And for 90% of the race, that looked like it was going to happen. But in the final few laps, as you will hear, Tom Locke came back with an absolute incredible drive. So the downfall begins very early on for Tom Locke here with a drive-through penalty for a jump start at the beginning of the race, which is painful. And I think it must have been maybe one of the first times we saw this happen. Josh in the Haas and FRR Harry in the McLaren had a little bit of a tussle, which took them right down to the back of the field on lap 1, just as you go into the S-bends in sector 1, which allowed drivers to capitalise, including João Moser, who moved up to P6, a very good place for him to be. Tom Locke, following a fairly poor first lap, moved down into following the drive-through penalty he gained from starting, moved down into P13, which gave Night Owl that crucial P1 that he needed to seal the championship there and there. Moving on later into the race, Ranga had a crash. The man who raced in Tier 1 the day before thought that he could have a little bit more experience at the track and maybe could do better, crashes out, which causes the first safety car of the race very closely, followed by Bad Boy, who DNF, but I don't believe that was a safety car with RNG Merit also crashing out, which did cause a safety car. Following this safety car, Tom Lock started this safety car in P9. 3 laps later, he was up into P3, but he does have 9 seconds of penalties at this point. As he's driving around in P3, on lap 26 or 27, our Brewmaster, who is just behind him and has a considerable gap to P4, spins, allowing the gap to go from 3 seconds from Tom Lock, the Brewmaster, to over 8 seconds to P4, which obviously then allowed Tom Lock to not only take P3, but take P3 by a country mile and gain that third place position that he needed to take the championship into Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is going to be an incredibly exciting race. It's a mouth-watering prospect, and I personally cannot wait to see it. That is your Tier 2 recap for this week. Sorry it's brief, sorry it's short, but it's quite an eventful race.
Well, you've wrapped it up, but I want to make a very interesting point. So, there is a 1 point gap, as Josh said, between Night Owl and Tom Lock in the standings. Incredibly close. Like, we're almost at Abu Dhabi 21 levels of bang equal points going into the final round. But 1 point difference, so it's the same circumstances as Abu Dhabi. Whoever finishes in P1 wins. Whoever finishes not in P1 loses. Simple. But on an interesting note, so the driver of the day vote, that is worth 1 point in FRR if you win that. It was possible for Night Owl to actually wrap up the championship before Abu Dhabi, but after Kota if he won driver of the day. However, currently it looks as if neither championship leaders are going to get driver of the day. I don't want to jinx it, but neither of the championship leaders are going to get driver of the day, which means that it will still be one singular point between the two drivers going into round 12. Well, that's the end of yet another episode. So, a very short episode this week. So that we've unfortunately had a break for 3 weeks. We've still done 3 episodes, but a break of uploads for 2 week break, and then we're uploading 3 because it's the 3rd week. But yeah, so unfortunately a very short episode, but that's mainly due to driver availability, or availability of other people in the server. So we weren't really able to get the interviews in that we wanted to do, but we still got a middle segment to split the two. It's been fun. Episode 12 of 14. Let's go for Abu Dhabi. Come back for that.